and gentlemen, this is the Right Guys podcast. Hey, bye illegals. See you on the other side. And now your hosts, Josh Hammerling and Max McGuire.
Welcome back, Right Guys podcast. We'll get to that clip in a little bit. Josh, there's been a lot of criticism of Pam Bondi. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of the same criticism that Merrick Garland faced under Biden. Where are the arrests? Where are the arrests? Where are the arrests? Mm-hmm. And it seems like they're finally starting to come, at the very least, with illegal aliens and the people harboring illegal aliens. A lot of news on that front.
And it's just not people that who have somebody that works for them, right? These are judges that are out there doing this stuff. There's people that are genuinely hiding some of these illegals, and we're kind of flaunting it for a long time. And now there's real consequences. There's real enforcement.
Yes, it is a crime to harbor an illegal alien. It is a crime to induce or encourage an illegal alien to reside in the United States illegally, right? Those are crimes. And for the longest time, sanctuary city policies have kind of skirted the edge of that crime. Mm-hmm. I would argue nowadays that goes past it, but skirted the edge of it to where it's like, oh, we're not going to help you. Well, there's a big difference between saying we won't help you catch these illegals and also doing everything in your power to make life as comfortable for them as possible, right? There are definitely arguments to be made that a state like California granting illegal aliens free health care, does that fall under the inducing them and encouraging them to reside illegally in the United States? You're giving them health care for free, health insurance.
You remember when Obama was talking about the Affordable Care Act, and he said this will never be used for illegal immigrants.
You lie, you lie,
right?
Yeah.
And they admonished him. They did their thing where they make him look bad for doing it, but it was true.
He wasn't lying. He was just a decade early.
And here we are. Right? Like the groundwork for this was laid years ago. And now people, imagine being able to operate that way for years, how arrogant you must become when you harbor these people, right? How used to flaunting the law on this they've become. And I just don't think they're ready for the crap storm that's about to hit. And it took 100 days, but that's a pretty good record in 100 days, man.
Yeah. Yeah. Good. No, they're making do on the promise of getting the criminals out first. Anytime you talk to Trump or anyone in his orbit about like, what about amnesty? What about amnesty? What they'd always say is we're getting the criminal class out first. What's going to be interesting is what happens when you've gotten the criminal class out. There's a lot of them, but what's going to happen when you get them all out? The hints that we've started to get from them is that no, they all have to leave, canceling TPS status, temporary protected status for whole nationalities of people. I don't think it's going to be. The Democrats are hoping that after this, there's amnesty on the horizon. I don't foresee amnesty being on the horizon. But a lot of these people are scumbags. Mm-hmm. They definitely shouldn't be in this country. Josh, you wanted to lead with this. I completely agree. Local to you, Colorado Springs, raided. This is the second of this kind of raid in Colorado this year, because I remember there's another one in Aurora. These underground illegal nightclubs where it's just a warehouse and someone buys beer and they charge for the beer. There's no insurance, right? There's no any of that. These places are death traps, right? God forbid there's a fire in a place like this. I mean, that's the worst of your worries, a fire when you're harboring human traffickers, drug traffickers, right? But there's a legitimate reason why you don't have underground nightclubs. Because not only does it foster illegality, but they are just overall not safe at all.
Yeah.
And there have been these raids, and you have a clip, these ICE raids. Why don't we play the clip of the raid just showing how many people were getting arrested?
Sure. I hate it when it does that. Like, this is intense, man. I know where these buildings are at. I have ridden my bike past this stuff when I was a kid in some of these areas.
Yeah.
I mean, and for those of you at home listening, ICE members have the nightclub is pouring out.
Yeah.
They have guns drawn. They're forcing people to the ground. And I mean, there's a lot of, it looks like there's some interesting ladies of the night there is my guess.
Yeah.
And
No,
some
what
gentlemen that
what they
were
confirmed is that this was a hub for prostitution, which means it's a hub for human trafficking, sex trafficking. It was a hub for drug trafficking and drug paraphernalia and things like that.
yeah,
I mean, they had illegal guns, illegal weapons. Literally,
drugs.
you're seeing their DEA, you're seeing
Yeah.
ATF. Every single letter in the acronym ATF is at play here. Right? The alcohol,
Postal inspector. There was a U.S. postal inspector.
Of
like,
course.
what are they doing there?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Police, IRS, CI, criminal investigations. I mean, that's every agency, Max, and that's a lot. Like that thing pouring out. There was a lot of diverse prostitution going on in there. There's probably a lot of diverse drug use, and that's really the tip of the iceberg.
And here's the good news. The good news is you have a wonderful Senator, Michael Bennet, who is all on this. And don't worry, he definitely is prioritizing the right thing. Here's what he put out over Twitter. This system has changed the way we jump from screen to screen. Here we go.
I'm doing a StreamYard for that.
Yeah. Michael Bennet, I am committed to addressing the threats posed by illegal drugs and firearms. I am closely monitoring the details of the arrest to ensure we protect Colorado families and uphold due process for those detained. This is your senator, Josh. This is your senator. They busted an illegal underground nightclub, a hub for prostitution, human trafficking, drug trafficking, weapon trafficking, illegal alcohol sales, all of it. You'll notice here that he's addressing the threats posed by illegal drugs and firearms.
Yeah.
Notice how he is not talking about the threats posed by Tren de Aragua gang members, illegal alien criminals. It's almost as if the drugs inject themselves and sell themselves, and the guns pull their own triggers.
Yeah, I was just thinking there was some sort of phantom gun guy walking around selling drugs and just magically putting it in these people's hands.
Yeah.
But Max, Colorado is a sanctuary state, and it's been led into the ground by liberal policies, and we still get senators like this whose biggest concern is to make sure that we get due process for those detained.
Yeah.
If anybody there is an American, they're gonna be due process. Like they're getting processed right now.
Oh, they're getting processed. And one of the things we might hear in a second in this news clip, one of the things that came out is that this underground nightclub was using active duty U.S. military as security, and that they were not just armed security, which I guess, I don't know. Can you moonlight as armed security? If it's a legal gun, I guess, but they're protecting an illegal nightclub. And the clips I saw, I don't know if it's the clip you pulled, they seem to have been partaking in some of the other illegal activities.
One of the security members is sitting on a pillar in that video that we're showing, and he's staying cool. He's just covering himself up, but he's been hired by these pop-up illegal nightclubs to show up with the gun and protect what's going on inside. Yeah. Think about that. And they're active duty military. Yeah. And if you guys don't know this area, it's around a bunch of hotels. It's really close to the airport. You know, I wonder how deep this goes, because if the military's involved with some of these cartels, you know, how many strings are they going to start pulling on that starts bringing up things that are going to blow Americans' minds away, blow Coloradan minds away? And your state senator is supporting this?
The question I have is, how illegal is it? I don't know if we'll get to the bottom of it in this episode, but how illegal is it for a member of active duty military in their off time to provide security at one of these things? I mean, let's just assume that they don't know what's going on. They're not participating in what's going on. How illegal is it for them off duty to show up with presumably a private gun, not their standard issue weapon, and to stand in a corner, right? I mean, remember, this is the same Colorado where you had an unlicensed security guard kill Lee Keltner in Denver.
Remember that show?
If you remember that.
I remember that show.
And the DA dropped the murder charge.
Yeah.
So they didn't go after him for being an unlicensed security guard. For not having the proper paperwork. They said it was legally justified. So I don't think Colorado is the land of making sure that everyone working in this capacity has the proper training, has the proper paperwork, has the proper licensing.
Hold on. You said how much trouble can they get into? Didn't they take an oath to fight all terrorists, foreign and domestic?
That's the problem.
Right? And then Tren de Aragua has just been considered a terrorist organization.
That's the big
are
problem.
These soldiers just committed treason? I mean,
that's the big problem.
Their whole lives are going to come crumbling down here, man. And was it worth the money?
That's the big problem. I'm sure they're going to say we didn't know they were Tren de Aragua, which whether you believe them or not, but that's the big problem.
Right.
Even if it's legal for them to be a moonlighting security guard at an underground nightclub, the fact this would be like Tren de Aragua is a designated terrorist organization. This would be like them moonlighting at a nightclub for Al Qaeda or Hamas.
I think they're just not doing it out of the goodness of their heart. They're getting paid money, and who's supplying that money, right? Because they've now been funded by a terrorist group and then given comfort and aid technically to the enemy because they didn't let anybody in the door they didn't want to be in there, right? They're kicking people out. Are they stopping fights? Are they, what is the security's job? And then that's all the questions that have to be asked.
Yeah. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that they're not in it for the love of Tren de Aragua. These people are probably in it for money. Yeah. And this is not to give them an excuse or explain away their behavior, but this is something that happens when military service members don't receive substantial raises or substantial pay hikes in many years. Yeah. I'm not explaining it away, but many members of the military don't make nearly enough money to provide for themselves, let alone a family.
Yeah.
Even if they're living on base housing, they don't make enough money, which leaves the door open for corruption, for lawlessness, for this. Have to think that if they made a little bit more money at their job, maybe they don't feel the need to have to go out and provide security to a terrorist organization's underground nightclub. Listen, they're going to get what they get. Here, let's play the video of that law enforcement officer explaining that they were active duty military.
300 law enforcement officers. What brought about this kind of requirement, this kind of need to be here with that show of force?
So this is an underground illegal nightclub, okay? And what was happening inside was significant drug trafficking, prostitution, crimes of violence. We seized a number of guns in there. We had active duty service members who were running security at the club and involved in some of these crimes. And in fact, we had over 100 illegal aliens inside as well. And those over 100 illegal aliens were taken into custody by ICE.
Active duty service members helping as security here. Can you elaborate on that at all?
So it's an ongoing investigation, but we had over a dozen active duty service members in the club tonight, either as patrons or working as armed security.
Oh my God. So they're hanging out and they're running security?
All right. I'm going to play devil's advocate for the patrons and say maybe it's possible they wandered into this nightclub and they don't know the permitting. They don't know the licensing.
Yeah.
But chances are, if you're at the illegal alien Tren de Aragua nightclub, you're involved with the illegal alien Tren de Aragua gang / terrorist organization.
Yeah.
I would love to give them the benefit of the doubt. I don't know how you could just be like, oh, I didn't know.
So, dude, like I would say I am not versed on what nightclubs look like, but you walk in and there's a nice bar, everything's up and up. You usually see like a sales license on the wall, a liquor license. Yep. Like when you walk in these buildings, is it just rooms of people having sex with prostitutes and doing drugs? I mean, there's going to be red flags all around you in that moment, right?
Yeah.
Maybe I should leave.
Yeah. Like here in Texas, they have the 51% signs on the wall, which I think is 51%, which is if any establishment derives 51% or more of its revenue from alcohol, you can't carry a gun there. Most places I don't look at, I'm not like looking at like the Better Business Bureau and like the sales tax license. Like they don't have to be posted. You don't really look at them. Here in Texas, if you carry a gun, you look for that 51% sign. Because even if they don't have the 30-06, 30-07, whatever they are, the open carry, concealed carry placards posted conspicuously on the door, if they have that 51%, notice, which they have to have by every entrance. I've almost gotten burned, never gotten arrested, but I walked in I thought it was a restaurant. Turns out it's a bar, and that's the difference, right? Restaurants will derive most of their money from food. Bars will derive most of their money from liquor. I walked in a side entrance, which was still open to the public. There wasn't a sign. And I noticed very quickly when I looked at the menu, it was like potato chips, peanuts. I'm like, there's no way in hell they derive 51% of their revenue from this. I got up and I left. But they didn't have the sign. They didn't have the sign posted at the door that they were letting people in at.
I'm going to guess they didn't have the proper posting for the signs at this place. And the other, like, are the bathrooms working? Like, do they go to these places?
If they don't have running water, probably isn't a real nightclub, right?
Yeah. It had like the signs were everywhere. I just stayed. Like,
if it's an industrial park, probably not a real nightclub. If it's a strip, that looked like it was a strip mall where everything was out of business except for the nightclub. That's usually a good sign.
Max, this stuff is so close to airports, the military there. I'm shocked that of all the people mentioned, they didn't mention any law enforcement who are caught up in this ring. And it was active duty military personnel. And there, we've always heard stories from the Army busting people at other places, not here particularly, but weapons coming up stolen. Night vision goggles, things disappear, right? You wonder how much of all that stuff that you see the cartels with isn't leaked out this way, right? And then you're starting to see the connections of how it's getting there, and that's going to freak people out.
A lot of it's what we left behind in Afghanistan. That stuff didn't just sit in an Afghan bazaar, right? That stuff got bought and sold and moved. I mean, right after the U.S. withdrew, there were videos of people walking through the bazaars, and you could just buy an M4. I
wonder if any of this stuff showing back up in the U.S. I mean, it's a world market for this stuff. It just makes me wonder what's being involved. How much of the stuff is moving across the air? Is there a drug trade happening with private planes? I mean, why would they choose an area where there's a ton of airports? It might be just for the space, but traditionally there's a lot of aerospace out there and all this.
Yeah, I mean, chances are these active duty were Air Force. I mean, I guess there's a chance it could be Space Force.
Oh, there's Colorado Springs military bases out there. I think there's an Army base too.
Is there? I mean, Colorado Springs is heavy Air Force. Heavy Air Force, especially in that area. Could be Army, could be Space Force.
Dude,
gonna go out on a limb and say it's probably not Navy, folks.
Probably not.
But I've been wrong before. You want to know something else? We always talk about this every time there's like a mass shooting, every time there's a school shooting. When it comes, what did you know about the shooter? What's the phrase that always comes out from the FBI?
Oh, what is the phrase?
He was on our radar.
Oh, that's what you're talking about. You've talked about this before.
They always say they're on our radar. They're on our radar. This illegal nightclub was on the Biden administration's radar.
How
they knew about it.
This nightclub?
Yes.
So it's been operating for a while.
Yes. The Biden administration knew about it.
No.
Yep. ICE, DEA, ATF. You saw the postal inspector there. All of these agencies knew about this.
When the postal service shows up, shit got real.
Yeah, mail fraud.
Right.
I mean, that's how they'll get them. They'll get them like they didn't get the gangsters for the murder. They got them for tax evasion and wire fraud and stuff like that.
Liquor tax. That's what it is.
Yeah, Al Capone was tax evasion. No, they send everyone there. They're going to throw the kitchen sink at them. But this was on the Biden administration's radar. They knew about this nightclub.
Wow.
And it seems they made the conscious decision not to act.
There's active military personnel that were working in this thing. And if somebody knew that this was going on, like, heads should have rolled. You know what I'm saying? It's a lot like the stories we hear now about all the people winning awards for books and stuff, talking about the decline of Joe Biden. And it's the same people that were hiding it, right? How much of everything were they hiding? Gangs in America. Joe Biden couldn't move. Weapons being trafficked around the world now. This all happened in the 4 years under Biden, and they knew about this? And they sat on it?
They knew about it.
That's almost as traitorous as the people that were in the nightclub being security as military personnel, allegedly. We'll
Yeah.
say allegedly, but man, that's going to be a hard rat to break here.
They're reporting it. They're reporting it that they were there. Yeah, no, listen, this is going to be tough. And I guess we'll show it again. I still can't get over this Michael Bennett tweet. Let's remove this video. Oh, here we go. This Michael Bennett tweet of, I'm committed to addressing the threats posed by illegal drugs and firearms. I'm closely monitoring the details of the arrests to ensure we protect Colorado families and uphold due process for those detained.
Who's he talking
I still
about?
can't get over that. He's talking about the illegal alien gang members.
Maybe we should get a line of questioning to Mr. Bennett. Maybe we ask him, what, are you talking about the Americans here or terrorists? Are you supporting terrorism? That's my question for the guy. I didn't vote for that.
I am getting tired of this phrase due process.
Yeah.
Due process doesn't mean what they think it means. The Democrat Party is extremely accomplished and extremely good at taking words that the American people kind of know what they mean and shifting them just far enough to get the American people to get angry about something that they really shouldn't be that angry about.
Yeah.
Right? Due process means that you got to have your day in court, basically, right? But what people don't really know, I mean, like, you look at the Constitution, you look at the Fifth Amendment. I'll go ahead and pull it up so everyone can see it as I read it off. The Fifth Amendment to the United States Constitution is where we get this idea of due process. It says, no person, make my screen bigger so I can see it. No person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on a presentment or indictment of a grand jury, except in cases arising in the land or naval forces or in the militia when in actual service in time of war or public danger. Nor shall any person be subject for the same offense to be twice put in jeopardy of life or limb. That's double jeopardy. Nor shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself, nor be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. Nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation. This part right here is the bulk of what they're all screeching about. Nor be deprived of life, liberty, or property. You can't be put to death without a trial, right? You can't be incarcerated for the rest of your life without a trial. And you can't have the government fine you and take everything you own without a trial. Due process. Some kind of due process. And due process means different things at different levels of the law. What the Democrats aren't telling the American people, deliberately aren't telling them, is that immigration law, while it can reach the level of criminal law, of felony, for like felony re-entry, immigration law, by and large, is handled under the civil court system. The immigration courts are not under the judicial branch. Immigration courts are actually under the DOJ. And technically, the attorney general can step in and handle an immigration case himself or herself in this case, as the immigration judge. Imagine, I mean, that's a big deal, right? Because we're not talking about a co-equal branch of government where the judiciary gets to decide whether or not someone gets deported. This is a situation where Pam Bondi can put on her the bulletproof vest, do the raid herself, and then she can go to the immigration court, put on the robe, and act as the judge, right? I mean, This is how this system is designed.
But that was the point of it.
That's the point of it. Immigration courts are not criminal courts. They are civil courts under the DOJ. And they operate very differently. You do not have the right to an attorney in an immigration court. It is not a criminal court, right? So you do not get a public defender. The Biden administration was using our tax dollars to pay for lawyers for illegal aliens. So they were letting them in, and then they were footing the bill so that the lawyers could use technicalities and loopholes to let them stay, right?
What a bastard system.
I go through all of this in my book, The Conservative's Guide to Winning Every Immigration Argument. I go through it all, but there was a shift in asylum success rates, understandably, after the government started paying for immigration lawyers. Right? Without immigration lawyers being paid for by the American people, which is disgusting. The more I say it, the more disgusting I am. That's over now. Without that, the vast majority of these asylum cases were denied. They were so bad that illegal aliens weren't showing up for the asylum hearings and were being ruled deportable, issued deportation orders in absentia. Right?
Wow.
Just to show you how different this court system is, if an unaccompanied child shows up in the United States and is ordered deported, they represent themselves. Illegal alien children represent themselves in this civil court.
Wow. Wow.
And it is not a surprise that the illegal alien children, unable to speak English, do not usually mount the best legal defenses.
Sure. Oh, wow. What a crazy system, man. So then why are Democrats demanding they be given due process knowing full well that they're not entitled to it? I mean, it's a beautiful kind of lie that communists love to use to try to bastardize what you think you know about due process, right? Make you feel guilty for them, make you feel like the heartstrings are being pulled so they stay, right?
Because they want it drawn out. They want it spread out, right? If every one of these illegal aliens, Biden let in millions of them. If every single one,
10 million.
I don't know if you've ever had a criminal case against you. I had a bullshit one in Colorado where I was accused of hitting a car that I may or may not have lightly tapped, leaving a parallel parking space. They're like, "You destroyed my radiator." All these bills, like, that's bullshit. But they charged me with leaving the scene of the accident. I was like, listen, I felt it lightly tap something. I got out and looked, didn't see any damage. It's a bumper. It's called a bumper for a reason, right? It's called a bumper for a reason. That case ultimately went away and it's gone. That took me like 6 months. 6 months for a single traffic citation. Wow. 6 months to get dealt with. What do you think happens when you need to give all these millions of illegal aliens full due process in a criminal court setting?
Okay, so we catch half of them. It's 5 million. So it'd be 5 million individuals who would be given court cases. At the average rate you're talking about will be done in about 12 and a half years to get through the first batch, maybe the first round. It would be so long, Max. That's the point of this, right? It would take forever.
As of right now, as of the end of fiscal year 2024, so that was past September, there were 3.6 million pending immigration cases. 3.6 million. Now, it largely depends on where in the country you are.
Yeah.
But that would generally take 2 to 4, maybe 5 years to work through it. That's in the immigration court system.
Is that for a single individual?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Average. It's just average.
Oh my
God.
God.
Obviously, whoever's next on deck isn't going to have that, but it's the average. And it's like if you were arrested right now and caught and released, that's what it would be. I've listened to immigration researching for this book. I've listened to immigration court recordings because a lot of them are public, especially when they don't deal with kids and stuff. Some of them, Josh, are 30 seconds long.
Oh my God.
Some of them are 30 seconds long. When you have an illegal alien representing themselves and the judge says, do you have a credible fear if you are sent back to El Salvador? And they say no. And the judge says, okay, deportation order, slams the gavel. Literally, some of them take 30, 60, 90 seconds long, right? So that is part of the reason why Democrats want to make this about due process.
Yeah.
They rail on that. And I can understand there's an unfairness to a 2-year-old illegal alien child having to represent themselves in court. There's a very famous quote from an immigration judge who is adamant that he can teach a 3-year-old how to represent themselves in immigration court in an hour. It's a crazy, it's a crazy quote. It's a crazy quote. I can understand there's a relative unfairness to that, but there's also a relative unfairness to the idea that the world can just send their children to the United States, and we have to let them in, and we have to take care of them. Most of these children are released into the interior because they have some sponsor, they have some family member.
Yeah.
The minority of them are deported because they show up with literally no one, not even an address to go to.
Yeah.
Well,
okay. So imagine if you're like a teenager, by the time you show up and they would start to deal with you, you could have had a couple of anchor babies by the time that they're done. And then you get to stay no matter what anyway, because now you had time to have children. He's a dreamer. And
that's what dreamers are about.
Delay.
That's what dreamers
make sure they can stay. Make them delay so they can stay, and delay so we can't get rid of them. It's just the delay tactic.
They truly believe that. I mean, that's what dreamers are all about, right? You came here as a kid, now you're an adult, and you should just be allowed to stay, right? Which is an insane logical argument, but that's what they claim. You talk about anchor babies. There was this other story. I don't know if you saw the headline. It was grossly reported that the Trump administration has deported 2 U.S. citizen children with cancer. Do you see that headline?
No. No, I didn't see that one pop up at all. Man, were they trying to turn that one into Trump's trying to kill 3 kids?
Let me get rid of this ad. I hate these ads. Here we go. 3 children who are U.S. citizens, including one with cancer, deported with their mothers. Lawyers and advocacy groups say that is not true.
Yeah.
So what happened was the mothers were deported, and then the U.S. government said, "Do you want to take your kid with you, or do you want them to go into foster care, or go to some other family member?" And the mothers chose to take their children with them.
Right, because that's what a mom does.
One of these children was being breastfed. Of course, the mother says, "I will take the child with me." That child was not deported. That child remains a U.S. citizen. They did not lose their U.S. citizenship, as much as we believe that the birthright citizenship is being abused by and being given to people that the authors and the ratifiers did not intend it to go to, right? A constitutional amendment written to try and give citizenship to African-American slaves was never intended to give automatic citizenship to the children of illegal aliens. But put all that aside, they're a citizen, they remain a citizen. They aren't deported. What happened is their mother got deported and they traveled abroad with their mother. In terms of legally, their mother, the guardian, chose to travel abroad with their children. If anything, the U.S. government was gracious in paying for airfare for the child. I mean, like, if anything, it's a feel-good story. Because, Josh, the alternative, if we weren't, you know what they would call it? You know what the left would call it? What? Family separation. You separated the families.
Yeah.
You deported the mother without the kid. You separated the families. The reason for that is they truly believe that anchor babies should exist. They will screech all day that there's no such thing as anchor babies. But when it actually comes to the cases, they believe that anchor babies should be a thing. Meaning, if they believe that if an illegal alien gives birth to an American child, that American child should serve as an anchor and keep them in the United States. That's what this outrage is. Because you can't be mad about family separation and be mad about the child going with the mother. The only thing they're mad about is that the mother was deported at all.
Well, they got the headline, and that's what they wanted. Right? I mean, every time we look at this, they're trying to twist the truth. And it really is I'd read somewhere that if a lot of illegals were not in the country, that Democrats would lose a series of seats in the House of Representatives.
Yeah.
So there's this idea that they need to keep a fresh flow of new bodies in to continue to vote Democrat by creating these anchor babies, by creating these mental gymnastics to keep them here.
Had it not been for the illegal alien migrant resettlement into New York City under the Biden administration, New York would have lost an extra congressional seat.
Holy crap.
That's how much they're on the fence. They almost lost another seat. Had it not been for the illegal alien resettlement, I mean, you can confidently say this, right? There was not enough residential development in New York to possibly have made up for illegal alien resettlement. They were taking hotels and turning them into apartment buildings for tens of thousands of people, right? Tens of thousands of people. Had it not been for the illegal aliens resettled in New York, they would have lost an extra seat.
I wonder if there was any motor voter too, as they got into some of those states. Like, here's your driver's license. Oh, by the way, you're registered to vote in the United States.
That's the fear. That's the fear, right?
So remember when you got busted? I think it was you. YouTube went after you, or Facebook, because you said the grace replacement theory is a thing, and I think we got banned for an episode for saying that. But here it is. We're seeing it play out, right? This is an I told you so moment.
Yeah, the way I write about it in my book, again, The Conservative's Guide to Winning Every Immigration Argument. Ka-ching. The way I write about it is, we cannot prove that there has been some backroom meeting, smoke-filled room meeting of the power brokers and the Republicans and Democrats. We cannot prove that they all gathered over drinks and cigars and caviar and decided, let's bring a bunch of illegal aliens into the country so we can replace American workers with this cheaper labor force. We can't prove that meeting happened. But if you look at what's happening, it looks like what you would see if that meeting happened and if that agenda was carried out, right? You can't prove that the George Soroses of the world, right? They met and they signed the secret document. But you look at what's happening is what you would expect to happen if that was the impetus.
And we were this close to having Joe Biden win. This could have been the first 100 days of his second term. Yeah. Could you imagine how many more people?
It would have been the first 100 days of the second term of the cabal of donors and advisors who ran the country for 4 years. Because Joe Biden wasn't doing it. Did you see him at the Pope's funeral?
No.
He completely lost.
Did he? It's a shock.
People holding his hand.
I actually feel bad for him now because they've used him so hard. He doesn't even know what he's like. He's a victim. I really do think Joe Biden was a victim of people who were just flexing and taking power from the poor bastard who didn't even know what was going on around him. That's just, and we were this close to having that still being the case. Could you imagine how many people would be coming over the border under a second Biden term, and the Democrats would have just salivated over that idea?
Oh yeah,
it's just amazing. Because today's the 100 days of Trump, and it only took him about 4 hours to shut down the border. All he did was send the order.
Yeah, no, the border is better than it's pretty much ever been in recorded history.
Yeah.
And you look at the media, they're saying, oh, Donald Trump wore a blue suit. You see that? He wore a blue suit to the Pope's funeral. How dare he? They told him to wear black, and he had the audacity to wear blue. But you look at the picture just in this frame, I'd say probably a third of the people in the dignitary box that we can see in this frame, maybe a quarter of the people are wearing some hue of blue.
There's nothing they will give him credit for. Like you said in his last address to Congress, he could cure cancer by touching people, and they'd still find a way to say, Donald Trump spreads cancer through touch.
Yeah.
But that's par for the course. And it's not working like it used to, Max, because now he's enjoying some really good favorability ratings. You're seeing some really bad disapproval ratings with the Democrats. They're falling apart. They're yelling this guy is falling, but they're doubling up. David Hogg, if he's in charge of some of this marketing for the DNC, like I can encourage him to keep going. Like, you're doing a great job. Yeah. Keep it up, kid.
You can tell that they're floundering because we're not going to harp on the Michael Bennett tweet, but that was talking points. His office was given the talking points. Any chance you have to talk about due process, use it. Yeah. It is not organic to look at that illegal nightclub with illegal drugs, prostitution, human trafficking, illegal alcohol, weapons dealing, right? It is not normal to look at that and to say, oh, think of the due process. That was a Democrat Party talking point, right? And over the weekend, Donald Trump and his administration and Pam Bondi, to her credit, they arrested not one, but 2 judges. Do you see this?
Yeah.
The first judge was arrested in New Mexico. And that was because he was quite literally harboring in his home a Tren de Aragua illegal alien.
Oh. Well,
and not only that, but allegedly, when he knew that the jig was up, destroyed evidence. apparently, allegedly, for whatever, there was a Hillary Clinton beat them with hammers situation going on to destroy the phones.
Oh my.
Conspiracy to tamper with evidence, right? The Democrats saw a judge being arrested and they said, oh, what? This is the norms.
Yeah.
This is fascism.
Raskin's like, they're going after judges. Yeah.
These are the same people who literally were over the moon excited at the prospect of Donald Trump being indicted, right? These are the same people who say, oh, no one's above the law except for the judges who harbor illegal alien terrorists in their freaking homes, Josh. He was in his guest home.
And he must know because he was destroying evidence. You don't destroy evidence if you had no idea that this guy was who he was. You would go through the system. It's just bull. Like, it's a slap in the face. And they don't care. They do believe they're above the law. This is how fascists operate. This is the craziest thing.
It isn't just that he let this gang member live in his house. According to the DOJ, federal agents, among the evidence that he destroyed, can you read this? Among the evidence he destroyed were photos that were posted on social media of his quote unquote tenant holding guns. So it wasn't just that he let them live in his house. He also knew that these were illegal aliens having guns in his house. And rather than kick them out, he seems to have let them stay. And his main goal in this was to destroy the evidence that he was harboring gun-toting illegal alien terrorists. It's really bad. This is a really bad case. He's going to prison for a long time, but the Democrats are crying, what about the norms? It doesn't matter that he resigned as soon as his illegal alien tenant was caught. So what about the norms? What about the children? What about the children, Josh?
Oh my God, those poor things. They couldn't have guns with a bunch of gang members? I mean, did he just give a terrorist organization member guns?
Literally, I don't think he gave them guns, but it seems that he knew they had guns on his property. Because when he could tell that the agents were coming, the thing he seemed to allegedly ran to destroy was the evidence that he knew they had guns.
Unbelievable.
This is the judge.
This is the judge. This is obviously a liberal judge. And this is the guy in New Mexico. So what the lady in, was it Massachusetts or was it
Milwaukee?
Milwaukee. That's the M word I'm thinking of. Dude, that was a doozy. Like,
this is another one where they're like, they're arresting the judges now. Milwaukee County Circuit Judge Hannah Dugan charged with 2 felonies. 2 felonies.
Dude.
So have you read up on this, on what this was all about?
She's kind of separated the person with due process, got the federal agents out of the courtroom or something and separated them so they couldn't make the arrest.
So one of the consequences of sanctuary cities refusing to cooperate with the federal government is that the federal government has to get very creative in how they apprehend illegal aliens and illegal alien criminals. In a perfect world, when the federal government, ICE, learned that illegal alien was getting released, they would submit a hold request. And once that illegal alien was slated to be released from custody, the police department or the jail would let ICE know. So they let them know when and where he was being released so that ICE could be there to snatch him up the minute he walked past the threshold out of the jail or out of the prison.
Right.
When a sanctuary city or sanctuary state refuses to do that, ICE has to get creative. And what we've seen a lot of problems with trying to catch these people at their home, in their neighborhoods. A lot of these people are armed and dangerous. They have people around them who are armed and dangerous. It's just not safe. So what ICE has been forced to do is figure out when these illegal aliens are going to be in for, let's say, a courthouse.
Yeah.
When's their court hearing? And I say, well, you know what? I bet you they're going to show up to their hearing. Because if they don't show up to their hearing, they're going to prison, right?
Yeah.
And then ICE sends agents to the courthouse to take them after their hearing, if they're released, right? If they're remanded to custody, then they're off the streets, right? But if they get released, if it's like a bond hearing or whatever, to take them in. ICE agents went to this courthouse in Milwaukee to get an illegal alien criminal, not a dreamer, criminal.
Yeah.
The Judge Dugan in this case, got wind that ICE was there and went out and started berating them. Basically,
no way.
Yeah,
she went outside and started yelling at.
Very aggressively, according to the eyewitnesses,
no.
aggressively, and she was panicking. She was getting nervous. I'll tell you more about this judge in a little bit. Basically, she sent them on a little bit of a wild goose chase. Said, "Okay, go talk to the chief judge." They did that, but not all of the ICE agents left. One of them was still there to watch. She didn't know about, right? One didn't announce themselves and stayed by to watch. When she went back in the courtroom, based on the documents I read, what happened was she took a case that should have lasted a longer time and tried to just speed through it and get it done with, right? This was an alleged domestic abuser, and the victims were in court. If I remember correctly, I'm not reading it in front of me. So you had victims ready for a hearing. They wanted to see justice. And the judge's main goal was to get this illegal alien criminal away from ICE. So basically, case gets dismissed or adjourned, I guess. And she tells the illegal alien and his counsel to follow her. Now, there's some dispute on where exactly they went. But the key here is that they went in an area that's typically reserved for juries and not open to the public. They didn't go out the normal door. They went out through a door they're not supposed to go through. Defendants are not supposed to be anywhere near jurors, because on the off chance they walk past an alternate juror or someone who's on a potentially going to be voir dired into their case, right? Can't have it. Walk through that door and released into an area where ICE wasn't going to be there.
Whoa.
She made this decision. Come with me.
Oh my God.
And we know that because there was an ICE agent watching it. Come with me. That is obstruction. When you know that there is law enforcement there to arrest an illegal alien criminal, and they present you with an administrative warrant to take a step that basically ushers in them through a non-public door, a place they're not supposed to go, out a back door, that's obstruction.
She's completely spit on America's code of laws with this. This is unheard. Like, keep going. I mean, this sounds juicy. Yeah. Like,
ICE eventually got him. Took 20 minutes though, and he got out. He got out of the court. It was a chase. Got him. This judge then gets perp walked. They take the pictures and load her into the paddy wagon or cruiser or whatever, and she's arrested. She's now charged with felonies. Felony obstruction of an immigration arrest.
Obstruction. Yeah. Wow. What's that get you? 15? 10?
Probably 5, if I would have to guess.
Okay.
Still and felony. And as a judge, she wouldn't serve that. I'm sure they'll probably try and plead it down.
Sure.
But or challenge it. I mean,
yeah.
I assume she's not going to plead guilty, but yeah, no, it's very bad. The evidence on it is very, very, very bad, and because they had an ICE agent who was there.
That's crazy. Did I lose you, buddy? Uh-oh, looks like I lost Max. I'm the only one left on there. You had to do that in front of an ICE agent. Oh, that would have been something wild. oh, oh, oh.
Sorry about that. I don't know what that was.
My goodness. I think we were getting too close to the truth and they pushed that.
Yeah. I think we were getting too close to the truth. That was interesting. Okay. Where were we? What were we talking about? I'm gonna have to edit this now for the audio edition.
She just 2 felonies.
Oh yeah, 2 felonies. 2 felonies.
Beat it down.
Do you know what Judge Dugan used to do?
Was she a immigration attorney?
Close.
What is it?
What do you think she used to do?
Translator. I mean, did she work with underprivileged groups?
Close.
Oh,
She
I'm
was.
getting warm.
She used to be the director of Catholic Charities, and she was in charge of sheltering illegal aliens.
How does she stand on a foot saying like how does she
This is
justify
the
her actions here? Was she revolting?
She
Was
was,
this
she
some
was
sort
the
of-
executive director of the nonprofit Catholic Charities of Southeastern Wisconsin from 2006 2009. If
Wow.
people don't know, Catholic Charities is they do a lot of good, but in recent years, what's happened with Catholic Charities is it's kind of been it's kind of transformed into sheltering and aiding and abetting and harboring and helping illegal aliens, right? Helping to give them a home, helping to feed them, helping to move them in around the country. That's kind of what they've been doing. There's a big hubbub in the Catholic Church because Catholic Charities was due a couple $100 million under Biden, the grants that they were going to receive, and Trump canceled them. And now Catholic Charities is having to shut down all of its food kitchens, its soup kitchens, and all that, because they went away from their general mission and became an illegal alien resettlement organization.
Wow.
But that is what she used to do. So this is not just a judge who decided that she was going to just uphold the law. This is a judge who, before she became a judge, was an executive director of a nonprofit that predominantly helps illegal aliens. She saw an opportunity. She did it. Josh, you know what I want to see next? I want to see, you ever see Bait Car?
Oh yeah. Hilarious.
I want to see I want to see bait aliens, bait illegals. I want an illegal alien to basically plead down and agree to turn state's evidence with the government. And I want that illegal alien to ask for a meeting with the mayor of Boston.
Ooh.
Get the mayor of Boston to do anything that rises to the level of obstruction or harboring or aiding. Right? I mean, like, this is how you do it, right?
Yeah.
This judge is not unique. This is what any of these liberals, these leftists in position of power, this is what they would do if the situation presented itself.
Yeah. And
so what I say is let's present it. Let's make the situation present itself. Let's give these sanctuary statists, right? Let's give them the opportunity to live what they preach. I guarantee you, if you get some of these illegal aliens to turn federal state like evidence, like state's evidence, whistleblower, whatever, get them to wear a wire. I mean, you could do it.
Oh my gosh.
And get them in. No, it's not entrapment because you're I mean, entrapment would be, it wouldn't rise to entrapment based on the definitions of entrapment. Okay. But it would be very funny if you could do it because or at the very least, let's take this surveillance establishment we claim that we have in this country, which never seems to catch or surveil the school shooters, the mass shooters, or the Trump assassins. Why don't we use it to listen in on those conversations, right? Because I guarantee you, if you put other sanctuary state, sanctuary city advocates in the same position as Judge Dugan, I guarantee you that they abuse their power similarly to try and usher him out. I mean, it's that simple, Josh. You get an illegal alien in the mayor's office in Boston, right? Show up with ICE agents saying we're here to arrest that illegal alien. Let the mayor know about it, and then just wait for the illegal alien, the mayor, to usher them out the back door.
Oh my God! And all of their preaching about due process.
It's so easy. Yeah, it's so
just bullshit because they're subverting any due process for anyone.
It would be, Josh. It would be literally so easy to do. It would be so freaking easy to do. We could rid the country of these people in an afternoon.
Oh my God! Could you imagine? If not, it would just make them a little paranoid, which would be fine because that would make them do the job they're supposed to do.
But right? I think they're. Go ahead, keep going.
No, you finish that one. I'm just pissed.
I think what we're going to see is that these people aren't just preaching this because it's politically beneficial. I think they actually believe that illegal alien criminals should be aided in resisting arrest by ICE. Is that what I say is give them the opportunity to do that. Let them be the hero in their story.
Is it this part of the anti-Trump derangement syndrome, or is this how they felt long before Trump? You know what I mean? Is this fueled by Trump and the derangement syndrome, or is this how they've always felt? Because if that's the case, how the hell did they get to a judge, and how long have they been doing it?
She was the head of that Catholic Charities of Southeastern Wisconsin from 2006 to 2009. So that's pre-Trump, right? What you had before Trump was you had Democrats supporting illegal aliens, Republicans opposing them, but also doing nothing to get rid of them. Because the pre-Trump Republican Party was beholden to all the special interests that want cheap labor.
Yeah.
Right. We've talked about all those different interests on the show before. With Trump, what you had is a Republican president who would say the same things, right? His immigration agenda wasn't all that different from Mitt Romney's and what's his name? John McCain's. Really wasn't, right? He was a little bit more hardline on it, but his immigration agenda wasn't that different. Remember, in 2006, 2007, Barack Obama voted for a bill that was supposed to build a border fence, right? These weren't controversial positions. With Trump, the reason they're all freaking out is because after decades of Republicans saying they'll do it but not, Trump's actually doing what he said he would do.
Which means they have to work.
Yeah.
And, and we all know that they get so many vacation days in Congress that I don't even know how they get anything done. I almost prefer them when they're not there.
I saw it. Let's pull it up before we end.
How many vacation days do they get this year? 120?
I want to say that Congress only was in session. The House of Representatives was only in session for like 5 days this month. How many days do you think?
I want to say they've been at least 2 weeks. I'm hoping they've at least worked.
How many days in the month of April do you think both chambers of Congress were in session together?
I'm going to say 2 weeks. That's a guess.
You're pretty much spot on. Let me share my screen.
Half the month.
So here's April. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 days. 2 weeks. 2 full weeks. If they'd worked a full week, 2 full weeks. Both chambers were in session at the same time.
Could you imagine if you had a job where you could take half the month off to go and see your constituents?
Oh, that's coming. Yeah. That's August. Look at August.
Oh, I'm sorry. They're not even in. Like, they don't even work in August.
The House will. I want to make sure I get this right. Nope. The House of Representatives will not be in session 1 day in the month of August. Actually, they won't be in session from July 24th all the way to September 1st. Nope. Sorry, September 2nd. No. July 24th to September 2nd, the House of Representatives will not be in session.
How much do they make? I've got to get
Make
elected.
a lot.
Like I need a lot. I need the money.
And
I need
listen,
the money.
there is an argument to be made that you need to be in your district. And so I understand they're supposed to have 4-day weekends so that they can spend those days in their district, meeting with people, having meetings, talking with people, listening to the problems that their constituents have, and then going back to Washington, D.C. to fix those problems. The problem is they really don't.
Shocking.
The average congressman or congresswoman will probably schedule 5 town halls in August. Half of them will be over the phone, probably attend a couple ribbon cuttings. Maybe they'll give a commencement speech if there's anything to give, right? They'll do that kind of stuff, rename a post office just to make sure that their name is in the local papers, but they're not actually doing anything.
Well, it looks like they've got September hammered away there, man. I mean, they only get a week off in the middle of it.
Yeah.
You know, poor things. Hey, we live in a world now where sure you can be there, but you can fly back in hours, right? It just shocks me how with this world we live in where everybody can communicate instantly, they get this time off to go and just do whatever they want to do. Like how many of them take vacations at this time? They're just not doing the work of the American people, and it's been pissing me off for a long time. They need to be in session, or maybe they don't need to be in session because they don't need to pass any bullshit laws.
Yeah, that's the flip side of it. That's the part I always get a little I'm uneasy on. Is it better for them to be in session and be doing bad things, or not be in session and doing nothing? It's a double-edged sword, right?
I know.
More good news, but we'll wrap up on this. More good news. PepsiCo has announced that it will remove artificial ingredients from popular foods by the end of 2025.
Wow.
Artificial colors will be removed from Lay's and Tostitos by the end of the year.
I was eating jelly beans with my wife, and she looks at me and she goes, I wonder what this is all going to look like in a year or two when all of these food colors are gone.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, yeah, it's going to be different.
Have you seen what it looks like? It's not fun. But that's the other thing. Your food shouldn't be fun. Your food shouldn't be a rainbow, right?
It's just not normal. It's not normal. It's just not normal.
Well, no, it is normal. It is normal. What isn't normal is the artificially colored stuff. We believe it to be normal, right?
Yeah.
But like the image I've been seeing around is the comparison of Fruit Loops in the United States versus Fruit Loops in Canada. In Canada, they have to be naturally colored, right? Whereas in the United States, they have all these artificial colors, which based on their chemical structures will refract the light to make it look green. There's no real reason it should be bright green or bright red. It's just that chemical refracts light a little bit differently so that you see green. It's not organically green. I mean, it's green because we see it's green, but it shouldn't be green, if that makes sense. Here's the difference. Here's the difference between American Fruit Loops and Canadian Fruit Loops. Canadian Fruit Loops do not look nearly as appetizing, I will say.
No, it looks kind of gross when you see it on that side.
But what's also gross is that all the things that look nice on the left were all colored using petrochemical dyes, which are byproducts of basically gasoline refinery. And this is something that the food industry has done. And this is where I think Trump's best successes, they didn't even have to issue a regulation. It was just RFK Jr. saying we're doing it. And Frito-Lay's PepsiCo says, okay, we'll be the first. Wow. Before it was petrochemical dyes, like red dye number, whatever. You know what they used to do before that?
What do you petrochemical? They would use fruit juices
before they used petrochemical dyes.
Was it bug?
Coal ash.
Oh my God.
That is the mineral residue left over after coal is burned for energy. They realized that coal ash, I believe it's yellow. It's really good at making things yellow. So for whatever reason, our food industry for a long time has decided that we're going to color the foods with the byproducts of basically our energy industry.
Good Lord. It's brilliant and horrible all at the same time.
Coal ash is not in the foods anymore because people say that's really dangerous. Problem is, the petrochemical dyes, they're byproducts of petroleum manufacturing, right?
Yeah.
Just as bad. Same thing, right? I thank God for RFK Jr. because if it wasn't for him, when we switched over to all nuclear energy, the greens would come from radioactive isotopes. If this trend were to continue, imagine if like Fruit Loops was like, oh, we need green. Let's go scoop up the sludge getting dumped out of the nuclear facility. You know,
uranium is beautiful. It's
uranium is so green.
So what are they? All right. So yeah, they've gone after the colors. I think the next thing they look at will be these artificial flavors because again, it's the petrochemical that tastes like cherry. We don't know why it does, but it does, and we put it in those foods instead of naturally being flavored. And
listen, I love my Coke Zero. I love my Diet Pepsi, right? Mm-hmm. When you look at the studies that were done on these, basically they're able to say it's safe because they say in order for it to be unsafe, you would have to drink an ungodly amount of Coca-Cola, of Coke Zero or Pepsi in one sitting. But what the studies never really dealt with was the fact that people are eating and drinking things across their entire day that have these artificial sweeteners in them, right? Say, oh, well, you need to drink 10 Coke Zeros or 10 Diet Pepsis for it to be dangerous. Well, what about when you drink 2 Diet Pepsis, you have a coffee in the morning with 5 Splenda, right? You go home and you drink some 0-calorie juice, right? It adds up. And
it's also
really dangerous is that all these manufacturers can say, oh, well, they're not drinking enough of ours for it to be a problem. But if you're drinking diet sodas and you're trying to have these artificial sweeteners, chances are you're eating enough of it over the course of your whole day for it to probably be a problem.
Yeah, we're assuming that people use it in the way they recommend, and we all know they never do that. I knew someone that was putting 13 Splendas a day in just their morning coffee.
Yeah.
So let that that's a lot of Splenda, man.
Yeah.
Just saying.
That is. Well, that's it for this edition of the podcast. If you like the podcast, give us a thumbs up. I'm posting. We're a little behind. I'm a little behind. I'm posting audio editions, so those are all going out this afternoon, so you get caught up. I mean, if you're listening to the audio edition, you haven't heard this yet, so you'll be hearing it right now.
Love it.
But that's it for this edition. If you like it, do subscribe to the audio edition. Available everywhere audio podcasts are found. We go live Monday, Wednesday, Friday on YouTube, Rumble, X. So tune in for that. That's it for this edition. My name is Max McGuire.
I am Josh Hammerling.
Remember, the fight to take back your country is not over yet, but the only way we win is we all stand and fight together. 6 times.
See ya.